Hello. Happy October 17th. We are 2 weeks away from Samhain, Halloween, and all this month I have been doing a ton of mediumship and cartomancy. So welcome for those of you that are tuning in live, and welcome for those of you who are tuning in later. If you don't know me, my name is Jenna Matlin. I am a full-time cartomancy, tarot medium, Lenormand medium, tarot professional, and I have been full-time since 2012. I am the author of 3 books. The most recent one is called Will You Give Me a Reading, which is about how to be a good reader for others. So welcome to today's talk, and I'm glad you're here. Hey, Tracy. So today we're going to talk about Lenormand and mediumship, and then in 2 weeks on Halloween itself, come right back here, and we will be doing the death date spread that I've created. So for today, I want to talk a little bit about Lenormand. If you missed it earlier this month, probably the first Thursday of the month, I did showcase my Crossroads reading, which is really about the story of crossing over from the perspective of mediumship. And it's interesting because I find mediumship to be more easily accessible with Lenormand. And I think, like, out of the two card types, Lenormand will probably slip into mediumship a little more easily. I think more so than tarot, for a lot of reasons that don't want to get into today. But if you know Lenormand and tarot and you're wanting to kind of move into mediumship, Lenormand is probably where you may encounter it more quickly than in with tarot. And I think even when I'm doing grand tableaus with Lenormand, I will find mediumship will pop up even when I'm not looking for it more often than in a tarot session. So today I want to talk about the activated cards that I have learned that spirits have used with me, that I've now then consistently codified into activated cards and what they mean. So if you are a hardcore Lenormand traditionalist, I would say you may get triggered by today's talk, because I'm really taking Lenormand kind of a step up from the very canonical traditional meanings and really putting a big mediumship framework. Also, for those of you that had taken my course, I taught a course over the summer called Spectral Reader. I did talk about activated cards, and I've actually added a few more from the class. So this is going to be completely new material for you as well. So I want to kind of get into first what are activated cards, right? So in Lenormand, you can never really just read one card by itself. Cards have to be next to other cards in order to create the sentences of meaning that we're looking for. So for example, let's look at this card. It's garden. Garden, we can't just read this card alone, because this could denote either a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb. What it does is it changes meaning depending on what you're looking for and the other cards around it. Hey girl, hey everyone. And hey, for those of you that haven't commented, welcome. And so it's a little trickier than tarot in that way, but it allows a, that we can really utilize this card in many different ways. So that's what I mean by activation of a card. And these are the cards that I have consistently had it wasn't like I just made it up. It was as I started moving into more and more mediumship with cartomancy. It's nice to see you too. I was just thinking of you, actually. And when mediumship started to occur, especially in my grand tableaus, I started noticing that there was another layer of meaning that felt like it started becoming more consistent. And so I had to really start capturing that in my notes after sessions, going, what just happened there? what did I just notice that just happened? And oh, there's a pattern here that seems consistent. This is why it's really important to have a journal and journal out your readings, because sometimes you go, is this like a pattern? But I don't remember. And then you can look back and see if it was. Another reason why it's really good to have a journal process. So today I'm going to talk about the activated cards with you, and then I'm going to walk you through the activated cards reading that I do. And I do it professionally. I did one just last night and it was really great. So these are all like road tested in professional settings in my mediumship sessions with others who pay me to do those things. And it works beautifully. So it's not like I'm just coming up with some things and then just like going, good luck with that. Like they're all road tested, both in what I perceive, and then when I start to create spreads, I use them in a professional setting. So they're as solid as I can possibly make them. With that being said, let's talk about the activated cards. So the first card I'm going to mention is the Moon card. So, in traditional Lenormand, this is often the card of your reputation. That is one of the traditional meanings of the Lenormand in the moon. But when it comes to Lenormand mediumship, this is a card that represents like what the spirit is noticing about you, or how they're watching over you, or what they're seeing about you. It's like, what is the moon shining upon in reference to often the querent or the sitter for the mediumship. So this is about, and not just necessarily the querent, but can also be about like things happening that the spirit may be interested in, like their house or relationships in the family, like anything that the moon shines on that would be relevant for the spirit. That's what this card denotes for me when it's activated. Conversely, the other card we look at is the stars. So stars traditionally in Lenormand is very similar actually to tarot star, which is like hope and renewal, possibilities. It can also mean electricity. That's another way, or interconnectivity. And in Lenormand mediumship, it is the connection of what is spirit doing on the other side. So we have the moon, which is like kind of closer to this plane, and then the stars. What are they up to over there? What's going on over there? What are they focused on? What are they doing? So that's the difference between these two. It's like near to us, far to us. Then there are two other cards that are kind of similar, but the focus is a little different. You have the crossroads, which is the act. If you looked at the crossroads spread, it's the literal act of crossing over from this side to the other. So it is talking about the moments before death, during dying, and right after, about that literal physical transition. Storic is also about crossing over, but the focus is more on after the actual physical death of the body, and more about like in between the movement of here and there. So they're similar in some ways, but one has more of an emphasis in this world, and the other one is more in the emphasis on that interstitial place. Um, but yeah, they're kind of a little similar, but with some differences. Next, I want to talk about book. So book for me is like desire to communicate, or something that has desire to communicate, or they want to reveal something to you or tell you something. This is one of a more traditional mediumship Lenormand card. And so it's just like, what was a secret but now being revealed, or what am I revealing to you? So that to me is more like denoting letting someone know about something that they may not have known before. Whereas the letter, so like book traditionally in Lenormand is secrets, often, or revealing of secrets. So it's not a big difference in how I read that here in mediumship. Letter, so in Lenormand, letter can mean anything that's letter like, bill of sale or message. I often use it to connotate like contracts, anything that's like, or even I've seen it for like if you get a job offer, a diploma, anything that feels like an official like page or letter of something is how we would look at Lenormand traditionally. But in and this was really actually the card that started it all in many ways for me. Really getting that information of mediumship breaking through in Grand Tableau, because I often see it as love note. So it's not the the actual real time necessarily conversation that you're having with spirit, but it's like a little message that's been pushed into this world from them, almost like the way you would see, like if when I see a cardinal, I know that that's like that's them thinking of me or letting me know they're around. That's what I mean by love note, if that makes sense. So it's more of a symbolic thing. Love note can also denote when the spirit is not talking about the querent or sitter, but wants to pass a message on to somebody else through the querent. So maybe like the querent's sister or the querent's other parent, like let those other people know that I'm thinking of them. Um, Mediumship is coming up a lot more in our reads. Oh, yeah, it is for a lot of people. We are hitting like a really, really interesting energetic nexus point. There's a lot going on around these topics. I'm just seeing it myself, and I've been deep diving. So I'm glad that you're finding it salient. It's so important. Okay. So I don't lose my um my frame of thinking here. So, in terms of verification, because that's something that often comes up a lot, with mediumship readings, like it's really important that they are verifying with information. It's actually them here, and it's not some other rando, and it's not me making things up, that it's really about verifying. So, it's often about stuff the querent or the sitter already knows, or or like a token of something, like something somebody inherited, as an example. And so for me, coffin can be like a general mediumship card, obviously, but it can also be like a verification, and it often can concern like the body, what has happened to the body, or the body is laying in rest, or things of remembrance of that more traditional type, um like that. And often this is like around like reasons that someone died, so a verification that this is really what's going on here, or even like a reassurance to the sitter in some way around death, because often those of us who have been left behind, we often may have questions about the death process, or how they were in the death process, or whether you know it felt like I mean, all of us have left someone and we may have some guilt, like did we try everything we thought of, did they know we were there? So there's a lot of verification of that with the coffin. With lilies, it's more about like verification with tokens or ancestral stuff. So this is where we see maybe a more talking about inheritance, or like items that were specifically left for you. This can also be about like signs and symbols that they're around. That's for me a lot of what lilies can denote. Hey, Victoria, welcome. And then the final, oh, wait, no. Oh, I didn't take them all out. So then we have key. Key is another like verification evidential card. It's a connector card. So this will come up, and it will be like, oh, there's something to verify here, or something that they want to really double down on. This is a very important message. It adds weight and volume to a message that I'll often see as well. And then these are the two newer ones that if you took my class, you didn't know, because I was still working this stuff out and going, is this coming up consistently for me to actually like make it an activated card? So we have ring And so for me, ring is often, it can be a card that's referencing the relationship between the spirit on the other side and the person on this side. So it's in reference, it's talking about their relationship in some way. Hey guys, hey. And then finally, the cross. And the cross for me traditionally is about burden or difficulty and sometimes religion. But in a mediumship capacity, I see this as referring to either like some unfinished business or even like regret or clarity around what they did in life or how they harm people. Like cross is going to give us some of that information. So that's basically what the cards kind of denote. Any questions? So I hope you're writing down some notes. Um, but you can do a mediumship grand tableau and just look for these cards and activate them. But for today, I want to do the activated reading that I'm going to show you in a second. But if anyone has any questions or you want me to go through those again, or if there are any that weren't clear, let me know. So with the activated spread, I really like it because I really like readings that have a bit of a randomizer element to it, which means that um, the spirit gets to decide what topics the spirit wishes to speak about, because not all of these activated cards are necessarily relevant, or maybe it gives them an option to go, I don't really want to talk about that. I want to talk about this with you. Because the one thing that's different between like a typical tarot or Lenormand spread and a mediumship spread of this type is that there's a third person involved in the process, and they have their own agenda about what they want to talk about. That's not always the same as what the querent's agenda is. So allowing for that more loosey-goosey topic selection by spirit seems to work really, really well in my experience. So activated. Activated means that this is the card we're choosing that is indicating what the theme of the reading is. Because in Lenormand, you cannot read a card by itself. So for example, let me just give you, let me see here. Where did you go? So let's say that the coffin is activated. This means that this is the topic subject at hand, which is about death. And then all the cards that come after it are referring to or describing this main topic in some way. So we could say, I don't know, let me see here. Okay, so here we have like a man. So the topic is coffin, and then like the description is like the man. So it's talking about a man who died, and then maybe we have mountain. It was a difficult death. Like these two cards are describing, oops, sorry, the camera's backwards, so that I'm getting confused. The topic, which is death. And the topic can change. So let me see. That's not the best example. Let me see here. So, okay, let's look at this one. So we have coffin, right? That's the topic. It's concerning death. And then after that, we have rats. And then rats is like maybe death due to cancer, due to some wasting disease, or like but then it can also mean, if we switch it, the emphasis now is more on the rats, and then the coffin is describing the rats. So I don't want to get too much in the weeds. You can, I definitely go into this more in the first spread of Lenormand that I did at the beginning of this month. You can go back and I go more into activated spreads, but you'll see what I mean a little bit in Lenormand, because the power of Lenormand is in the combinations. So when we say activated, it just means like the topic that the rest of the cards are also going to talk about. It is kind of the leader. So let's get into some of this. Let me pull this over. So once again, for those of you that are late, I will be back here on Halloween, October 31st. We're going to do a tarot death date spread, which is really, really fun, utilizing the date of the death of the person to get information. But for today, we're going to do some Lenormand. So can everybody see my table okay? So I'm not doing actual mediumship today. I don't do those in lives. Like I have a whole process for that. So today is just an example. Oh, Kipper is great. I love Kipper too. Kipper is a lot of fun. I got into that this year as well. I haven't done any mediumship with Kipper though, I have to admit. I should ask Thomas about that. So I'm going to shuffle these cards very fully, at least 7 times. That's what they say mathematically. Someone can confirm or deny 7 times. It kind of gives you like a nice even spread, or you can just feel connected with spirit and say, let me know when it's time for me to stop. I love how Kipper, I love the directionality within Kipper. That's a lot of fun to play with. I love Kipper for like really quick, really accurate, really black and white answers. Okay, so we have the deck here. And what I'll do is I'm going to flip through them one by one until, let me see here. What's going on with this? Yeah. Until I get to an activated card. And then I'm going to pull 3 more cards. I'm going to do that until I'm through with the whole deck. So what that means is that every reading is going to have some information, less information. It really, again, is up to spirit. I'm allowing spirit to really kind of run the show with what this looks like. So I will keep going. Oh, there's key. So fish was not an activated card, so it kind of goes into the discard pile. So then you have key, and then I pull 3 cards after it. Oh, that's a nice message. So with Lenormand, the reversal is not necessarily important at all. Not like tarot. You can turn them around if you want, unless you do read Lenormand in a some cards, the directionality shifts, but we don't need to get into those weeds for today. So if there are activated cards like these two, they're not activated. It's always activated card and then 3 cards. And these cards act as not activated if they're part of the 3. So then we keep going. Nope. Okay, now we have stars. That's an activated card. And then 3 more. Whoop. And then we're going to do that again. Let me make this go back a little bit. Haha. So now we have crossroads. So just to make this easy and not feel like I have to pull my camera back so far and so you could see it, we're just going to start with these topics and then we'll keep going. So the first topic at the top there, that is key. So key is connector. So something about verification, something about death. So I feel like it's a connector, it's a showing. And so what we have here is ring and coffin and fox. Now, I really love this because I still see ring in this position as like pointing to the relationship between the two of them. And then probably talking a little bit about death. So, coffin and fox, to me, I would say um, that after a period of maybe suffering or difficulty in the dying process, towards the end, it happened fairly quickly and easily towards the end. Like this person was struggling, they finally gave it up and they said it's just time to go. Because for me, fox is often like surprises or quickness or something like that. The ring can also indicate that someone who is married to that person was there with them at the time of death. So someone they were married to or someone for whom they had a very close, like a marriage. So I look at key as like an initial verification for the person that I'm sitting with, and I would be asking them, did this happen when the death occurred? Did this happen when the death occurred? Just to make sure we've got the right person. Then we have stars. So stars again, this is the card of like what's happening on the other side for that person that's not necessarily connected to this world. And so now we get into another piece of how I read Lenormand. So in Lenormand, um, if I really, these little court cards, so let me kind of go in real quick. So within traditional Lenormand, there are, as you see, all these playing cards. But what I do is I look at the inserts. So as you can see here, we have like two court cards. For me, these always denote speaking about someone on the other side. So how I would most likely read this would be, oh, whoever this person is, they are with two close friends or possibly siblings, two females. Dog often can be like dog is often, it can mean boy or boyfriend. But since we're talking about the other side, I would not then make the assumption that the dog is referring to the spirit, but more about the relationship. Like I am sibling to these two. Like it was the three of us, or we were childhood friends and we're all together. And that's how I would read that. So again, that could be another verification. So the person who's the querent, like had these other people crossed over? And I love when I see these messages because it is so comforting to know it's not just that one person, but they're with the other people that we know and love, and that they're okay and they're well and they're being cared for. So then we have the final one in the list, which is crossroads, which is concerning, again, leading up to like death and the crossing over. Now, what's interesting to me is I'm also looking at themes. So things that feel like they're repeating means that it's really important. There's a reason why it's repeating. So in the first part, we saw a little bit about talking about like dying and death, and we're also seeing it here again with this card. Sorry. So for me, that typically means that the spirit knows that the querent may have some very specific worries about what had happened. Even if the querent doesn't tell me that that's what they're worried about, the fact that spirit kind of doubles down on it a few times tells me that it's really important that the living person really hear this story in some way. It's very important for them. So, talking about the death, so we have again mice or rats that's often like cancer or something eating away at them. It was a wasting disease, it was a difficult disease. You have clouds, which could also mean Alzheimer's or dementia, or that there was a lot of confusion that the dying person had. They had a lot of confusion. But then we have this bouquet, and there's a double reading that you can kind of, there's sometimes with Lenormand, there is more than one interpretation. And when I see two interpretations, I say them both because they both can be true. So you have the woman also inverted here, the bouquet. This is spirit. This could be talking about someone who came to this side in order to accompany the spirit to the other side, or was around in like the days or weeks, final 2 weeks before the person crossed over. This makes a lot of sense because what I've come to understand is when someone is in coma or they are or like there's some kind of mental issue, the spirit is not in the body as often as it would be in other ways. So they're kind of one foot in, one foot out. And it's typical to see a lot more spiritual activity leading up to the actual final crossover. And so for me, to the querent, I would ask if they had noticed any phenomena or anything like that. So that's one kind of hint. The other part of this too is with the bouquet that like it was very difficult again leading up to it. But then when it was time to go, like it kind of, this person slipped away easily. Like the final moments were like a blessing for them. They were not struggling, they were not in pain. And because we saw a very similar message here and here, that would tell me that whoever the querent is, that they really struggled with finding peace around this, or that they were very worried that this person was scared or in a lot of pain in that final moment. And even if they don't say anything to me, because I'm seeing that message more than once, it tells me that it's really important for this person to know. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense. So it's not even just like the individual messages that we see spirit come through with, but we look at why is spirit saying this, or why is spirit maybe repeating this more than once. This is not random, that there are themes that if we listen for, it gives us another layer of contextual meaning. So we've done that, and we're still not through with the Lenormand. We still have our little pile here. So we're going to keep going. Oh, there's Lily's. Ooh, interesting. And then we're going to keep going. Oh, there's book. Cross. All right. And that finishes the reading. Oh, that's really interesting. So we have at the top, we have lilies. So lilies, oh, thanks. Lilies is about, again, it can be about like tokens of remembrance or physical things, verifications, ancestry, that kind of thing. So we have that. And this is a very interesting run with that. So we have letter, we have writer, and we have scythe. That is really fascinating to me. I feel like this is I would say this is probably talking about the estate. And to me, the message is with letter and writer, like maybe there have been some disagreements, but Spirit's saying, like, I'm going to make it clear to you what is not important for you to fight over and what you can let go. It can mean something like that. It can also mean there's an alternative reading here because the scythe does have the page of diamonds. So with the letter and writer there, because writer means news coming your way, and then letter, and then the page of diamonds. I would almost be like, is there someone else who is really, really important to you, like a grandfather possibly, or a sibling that passed? Like they're basically just coming in to say hi. Like there's like, I'm passing along this love note. Even though the letter is not activated, you could still kind of read it this way because the placements around it are really intense. So it can mean either one of these things. Um, But I feel like both instances, it's being driven by spirit indicating with messages in some way. So I feel like this could be either some advice or a love note. And so this is why it's okay as a reader for you to ask questions of your querent. I think a lot of readers are like, oh, I shouldn't say anything because if I ask, that means I'm getting intel or, or whatever. But the thing is that you can see like a double message. And sometimes they could be both relevant or only one is. So if you ask, then they can let you know if you're on the right track. That's all that is. Then you have book secrets revealed. This is really interesting because you have house and you have moon and you have anchor. So I feel like this is concerning the querent themselves. And I feel like there's going to be some really good news coming your way, specifically with work, because that's anchor. You have moon, which is your reputation. And then house. House in this case, like there's a couple double meanings here. Like I feel like the card I'm really looking at that's connecting the house and work is moon. So it can be a time where you get to level up, or if you're looking to sell your house, it has a great curb appeal. But the reading from spirit is this, like it's time to finally cash in on a lot of those favors and all of that clout you have been working so hard to build for yourself in the areas of work or literally your home. So that's a little message for the querent, is how I would say it. And then finally, the cross is unfinished business from life or unfinished business with the person at hand. So we see here, we have the woman. Um, if the querent is a woman, I would read this as it's definitely the unfinished business is definitely referring to her. And then we have tree and we have ship. So tree is often health. And the way I'm kind of looking at this, I would read this as spirit saying to this person, honey, you did everything you could do. You did everything you could do. I know that you tried your hardest. I want you to know that I knew you were there and that you were doing everything to get there or be there or try. This can also denote that the person I'm reading for was maybe traveling to the person who died, and maybe that person died even before they got there. Again, very similar in theme to the two others, which could be like, oh, you were on your way. Like they know you were trying to get there. Like please like come to peace on that. Because tree can also mean slow. So it can be like you didn't quite get there in time, or you stepped out of the room to drive to the, drugstore to get something, and then it happened. So that's kind of in a nutshell, because this is an example, like, I'm not like locking in on one person from the other side. If I was, there'd be more like I'd be getting confirmations from both ends while I was doing this. But this is just a way to teach you the more kind of like how this reading goes. So every time you do it, as you can see, you're going to either have a lot of things to be said or less things to be said. It's really up to spirit. Any questions with this? If you actually are doing mediumship, it becomes a lot clearer because you have spirit helping to direct the energy in some way. And then when you have multiple interpretations, you'll sense which one is really accurate or right. So if it feels like this system is a little loosey goosey, I promise you, when you're actually doing it in mediumship, it's not. It's pretty dang clear. Oh, well, thank you. Thanks, guys. I love doing mediumship readings. They're definitely harder than a regular cartomancy. It's definitely more of an energy drain because you're dealing with a third person that you don't have to in a regular reading. And then they have their own voice, they have their own agenda. Um, and I don't always know. Like sometimes they're harder to grab, like it feels like it's more work. Sometimes it's crystal clear. I don't always know what the differences are. But it's less like consistent in that way as tarot is for me. And I know a lot of people will come to mediumship wanting to hear from the person who crossed over with very specific questions. And in my mind, in my experience, spirit may or may not answer those questions for us. Again, they have their own agenda. So it is a bit of a shift for people that have read more traditionally. So, you wanna do, like I don't know if I can do a full another reading, but with our time, we could definitely, like, just kinda play around with some more combinations. Does that sound good for everyone? Can't you do tableau with Kipper? I believe you can. I've never done a tableau with Kipper. I am not that like, I've just started learning it this summer, so I do, like, a few, like 9 card spreads, but then of course I look at the directionality. So yeah, I'm not your go-to person on that one. No, I'm not gonna get into charms today for this is that would be like probably a whole other that would be a whole other layer that I don't know if we have time to adequately not just confuse everybody. But we could do it another time, I promise. And Tracy is for those of you who are like, what why is she talking about charms? Another way that I do mediumship and I like having that more like like I said, randomized, that it's not all just me controlling it, is with charms. So I'll often cast charms over the images to give us another layer of meaning. That is like a 3-part series in of itself, and I don't wanna, like, give people too much, but it's incredibly beautiful. Um Oh, with the mermaid deck. Oh, yeah. I have not had time to, do more deeply than what I've been doing. It's just there's so many fun things to get into, isn't there? Like, I'm never bored. Yeah, it did add much. We'll definitely do charms another time for sure. So, and like I said, this is non-canon way of reading Lenormand, and I know a lot of Lenormand purists are gonna be like, "Forget that, Jenna. I'm not gonna do that. That's not canon." And and that's okay. So let me shuffle and we'll just do a few more just for funsies of what we've already done. Because yeah, so you when you're looking at them, it's not just like each instance of message, but why like some messages will repeat or there'll be more of an emphasis on information. Like sometimes it's an emphasis on just verification, verification, verification. Sometimes there's an emphasis on what's happening in this world or like really imparting to the querent that they worked through their stuff or they see how they've hurt them. Sometimes it's an emphasis more on what's going on the other side. And so when we allow this more randomized way of allowing spirit to pick the topic, to me, that gives us that kind of information more than if we had just done a grand tableau using the activated cards. What do you mean by you can't have all these boundaries with spirits and cards? Tell me a little more about what you mean there. And it's interesting because I can do mediumship that's more just, the mental mediumship that a lot of people know. And then I added this layer, and every spirit is different. Sometimes it's going to come through more with the mental stuff, and sometimes they really prefer the cards. To me, I like to use every single possible tool in my toolbox to give them an opportunity to speak, and it's not always in the same way. Hello, greetings from Canada. So let's do a few more like fun, like just see what happens and have fun with it before I've got to go. And if you have any questions around mediumship or anything like that, feel free to add it in the chat box and I'd be happy to answer. All right. So again, this is totally random. We're not bringing anyone through, though inevitably someone messages me and says, "Oh, I know who that was." Like I'm not trying. um, oh, coffin on the first hit. So we have coffin and we have house and we have bouquet. Oh, that's nice. And we have rats. So for me, after you taught it to me. Oh, the traditional way. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Um, I found that like particularly, that we've come to a consensus on what these cards mean allows them to speak sometimes outside of the traditional way that Lenormand is used. So this is interesting. Like I would say, like, this is like, oh, there's someone actually here. First card out the gate is literally coffin. When you get that kind of strong start, it's like, ooh, someone wants to talk, you know? And then you have house, bouquet, and rats. So I think that this is more about verifying who has crossed over and being like, oh, I want to ensure that this is the specific person that we're looking for. And you can do these in two ways. You can do a specific mediumship where you're calling someone in, and that's where I think it's safer to do so, or you can do a general. Or if you find yourself in a home that is particularly active, you could definitely do Lenormand to try to figure out who the heck is here and what's going on. Actually, this is making me think about how I could structure a Lenormand reading for active places that could be safe. Let me think on that. Let me see what they tell me. But I would look at that first card as probably the person who's crossed over. So King of Hearts or King of Cups. And we have Queen of Spades. So I would be like, he's with this person who died previously. They were probably very close. And then we have rats, which could be the reason for the death. So I see all of this as, oh, this is really just like verifying that like this is the person who this person is. Does that make sense? So then we keep going. Snake, nope. Woman, nope. Anchor, nope. Book. What do you want to reveal to us, Spirit? Crossroads, Scythe, and Fox. Interesting. Because I often see book as like advice for the living, I would definitely read this in a different way. But for me, fox can also mean job seeker looking for work in some way. And I feel like with crossroads and scythe, like I would say, like there could be like a type of job this person is looking for, or that they're job hunting. But the problem is that they have not like opened, they're looking too specifically and they need to open their parameters in some way. Otherwise, they're not going to get the job in the time that they need it. So with that book, it's like what is being revealed to the querent? Like what message do they want to say? And it's more to me about advice, I think, than any of the other activated cards. So if any of this rings a bell, it's probably for you. And then we have lilies, which is like again verification or token or ancestry. Interesting. So we have the Queen of Cups now, and we have Ship and Sun. So I feel like this is an ancestor, and I don't necessarily mean like an immediate ancestor. This could be a far ancestor. And with Ship and Sun, there's a feeling of like this ancestor is pleased, like something that needed to be done within the family line is going to be done by the person on this side, or they have already. So this one is unique in how there's all these other kind of people that the main spirit is kind of also referring to and bringing things through. And then we can keep going. And then we have child. Nope. Ring. So ring is referring to the relationship that the querent and the person who crossed over had. So we have clouds and clover and tower. I would be like, I would feel like they are acknowledging that there was some complexity in the relationship between the two of them. There was some complexity and some difficulty. And the feeling I get when I look at this is like the person who crossed over, they're like, I know I made things kind of difficult for you before I crossed over. Like there's some kind of like with the clouds, it's like lack of clarity. And then you have clover, which kind of clears that lack of clarity up. And then you have tower. So for me, tower is like education, gaining in wisdom. So it's like I now understand something that I didn't understand about you or about us or where we were going. Like I understand that more now. Maybe a way that I would read that as an example. And I wouldn't maybe not like read the court card as another spirit because this is really referring to the relationship between the querent and the spirit. So it's a little different that way. And then cross. So that's really interesting because cross is, um, unfinished business, things I want to clarify, or like some difficulties that happened. So that's really interesting because the one we just did before that with the ring, talking about you and I, there was a sense of wanting to clear the air, right? And so now we're getting another similar card. So that there's definitely a theme here. Oh, that's interesting. I would almost like looking at this, I would almost say that in life, this person favored one kid over another. And this reading is about trying to rectify that now. Because we have fish, which is money and resources. We have key, this is the answer. And then we have dog, which is referring to either like a son or a brother or an uncle, even is still living. So, like acknowledging either that this person deserved more resources than they got, or they got too much. There's something at play that I would look at, especially with the card above it. So I definitely feel like this would not be a reading I would surmise would be from a married couple. It does feel like parent to child. And then stars. What are they doing on the other side? Oh, they're really hard at work on the other side. A lot of healing happening on the other side. We have the heart, we have the tree, we have the birds. Birds chitter chatter, like talking, connecting. Heart, connecting back to the heart. It can also denote someone on the other side that they're working with specifically. And then you have like tree, that's another like ancestral card, like working through ancestral trauma necessarily. Maybe, but it's more about like learning to love better, learning to be connected to the heart, like working on that part of me. And then we have moon. And then just two more. And that's okay if it's just two more. That's really cool. Moon, regarding like what they're noticing about the querent, what's happening in their lives. So then you have letter and writer. To me, this is, and didn't we already say this? No, was it this one? Letter or writer, again, news is coming your way. Like really important information is coming your way. And I may be even influencing that in some way. Oops. So there you have it. There's two quick runs. And when I do a typical mediumship session, this may be only one part that will do. Um, and often you can do it before. It doesn't really matter where you decide to like put it in a whole mediumship session. But when I use like other tools, you'll start to see corroborations, you'll start to see themes. And so this would make a lot more sense again within a larger context. But basically, in a nutshell, that's what I do. That's the reading. And so next week, I will be in Ocracoke in the Outer Banks. So I will not be here doing a live. But if you are in Ocracoke, I'm going to be doing readings and I'm going to be teaching a workshop Tuesday, October 22nd. If you're in the area and you want to come on by. Link in my bio, or just go to my website, which is just my name, and all that stuff is on there to register. And then I will be back Halloween. We're going to get into the death date spreads together on Halloween. And if anything else, I hope I'll see you there. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it for Instagram. And so I'll be over there. So if you guys want another run of this, yes, you got to get a deck. But if you do get for mediumship, get the more old-fashioned Lenormand that have the actual inserted playing cards. Because I have a lot of decks that don't have that, like the more modern ones. Oops. The more modern ones don't have that. Like, so for example, Anchor, all it has is like, it just says nine of cups. Hello, focus. And it doesn't have the inserts, which I think like hinders, kind of makes it harder for you to discern that kind of otherworldly, other person, spirit piece it's referring to in Lenormand. So that's it, friends. I hope I see you in 2 weeks, and I hope you have a great, and like email me if you do one of these and you're like, wow, I just had this really crazy really interesting experience, I want to know. Because I like to get out of my own internal echo chamber and see how other people are reading and doing these. So please feel free to reach out. Let me know. Okay, friends, I'm going to go, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful The Veil is Thin spooky season. Take care of yourselves. Bye.